call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, all members are present. Approval of the agenda. We have one change, an addition under action item 7F, approved road closure of Park Road for the Polar Plunge. Is there anything else?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second from Heidi. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the January 21st, 2015 regular meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, or clarification that anyone noticed? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion from Keith.
Second.
Second from Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Gotcha. Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Now is our public open forum. This is separate from what our public hearing will be later tonight. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to address the council? Is there anyone here that would like to address the council? Calling a third time, is there anyone here that would like to address the council? Seeing none, our public open forum is now closed. We will now move on to our public hearing. We will recess our regular council meeting and open the public hearing. We have a public hearing before us this evening regarding the Center Street project. It is our intention that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. If you wish to speak, please sign in on the sign-up sheet at the back of the room. The procedure is as follows. Presentation by staff, followed by questions of staff. Owner presentations or additions, followed by questions of the owner. Public input will then be opened. Raise your hand. When recognized by the mayor, approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. State your comments and position. No one will be allowed to speak a second time until everyone has had a chance to be heard. First, we will hear questions for clarification. Second, public in favor of the proposal. And third, public speaking against the proposal. After everyone who wishes to speak has had the opportunity to be heard, the hearing will be closed. After closure of the public hearing, the council will deliberate and take action as appropriate. Members of the audience do not participate in the council's discussion unless a majority of the council concedes to hear additional information or questions. The hearing is now in session. Keith?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. This is the public hearing for the Center Street reconstruction project, and just a bit of a timeline for this is that we initially received a petition for some pavement on Center Street. The council back in early, I can't remember exactly, I think it might have been like February of 2014, authorized the preparation of a feasibility report. Because it was petitioned by all, we didn't actually do a public hearing. We did do a public informational meeting, and we also presented the information, the report, to the council at that time. Since that time, the project had not moved forward by the council, had not authorized plans and specifications. Coming back, we've decided that it would be appropriate to actually hold a formal public hearing because the project would be assessed. And it's a little bit different than just a pavement project, as some of you who are on the council before know, and I'll get into it for the two of you who weren't on the council, a little more details on the project. So it's a little more than just a paving project. So that's why we felt it was important to actually hold and conduct an official public hearing. So therefore, I will go through my report on the feasibility and what the project is about, the costs of the projects, the proposed assessments of the project. After that, I'll entertain any questions that you may have. The Center Street reconstruction, the purpose of this is to review the alternatives that were looked at to reconstruct as an urban section roadway. You may recall previously we did look at a urban and a rural section type roadway. The council has since made a declaration that it would be an urban project, if at all, if the council chooses to move forward. So I've revised from the original to just include an urban section. Project location is located as shown there. It's just south of Beltline, between Beltline and 12th Street South. Center Street really is kind of our westerly street in that particular quadrant of the city. Currently, it is a gravel roadway, no curb and gutter, nothing of that. It's a rural section. This is what is being proposed for the typical urban section. You'll see it's a 36-foot wide roadway, which is our standard for 36-foot from face to face of curb. It has concrete curb and gutter proposed with it's a thicker section for the heavier traffic through there. It's a 9-ton section, which is 2 inches of wearing course, 3 inches of bituminous non-wearing course, so 5 inches total of bituminous, 8 inches of class 5 underneath that. We have some small shoulders. You kind of notice that off the edges, so it's not a full urban where we might have more of 13, 14 feet of shoulders. We have a small 5-foot, essentially a 5-foot shoulder, and then a 4-to-1 slope going down or up to match into existing grade. So a little smaller shoulder to fit into the surroundings there. Design project, and fortunately I forgot to bring my little laser with, so I will maybe stand over here and try to point a little bit. The project, this is Center Street. North is towards this side, so to the left of the street here, or to the page here. What we have is, this is the pipe option where we have some new storm sewer. Storm sewer up in this corner collects water that's coming across Beltline from the north. That culvert is currently actually plugged and not working, so a fairly large drainage shed to the north actually kind of piles up on the northeast corner and eventually flows down Beltline. That's going to be picked up with this. That's the way it was intended to flow. That's the way it used to flow in the future. And that's what the whole storm sewer system for the project downstream, and this is designed for. So it would open up this and drain it down into a ditch that would be just on the west side of the roadway through here. The remainder is just some catch basins. That to the south, there's a low spot. This is the profile of the project, and there is a small low spot that's located right in this location. That drains back more towards the center of the street, and then it drains straight out to the west out a pipe. Now that existing pipe, the one thing that was different from the initial time we talked about this is we learned that there was actually some work that occurred to the west of here where there's some additional pipe in through there, which is actually increases the length of this pipe needed in order to discharge. Therefore, unfortunately, that also increases the costs associated with that as well. So the pipe alternative actually is the pipe is on the top there. If you can see, that's going east to west as it goes towards me. There's about another 350 feet of pipe beyond that that's currently not shown on this particular graphic, but it crosses through where Midwest has some of their outdoor showroom, if you will, where their products are stored and things out through there. So that is the pipe alternative for this. We talked about through the process of the public not the public hearing, the public informational meeting with the council, perhaps looking at a different option, and that is with a pond option. I'm just going to show you kind of the pond. This is where the pipe was located coming from Center Street right through here. And there's currently actually a pipe that's in there. So there's actually there is a city infrastructure that comes through here, discharges about through here. That pipe is too small. We can't utilize that pipe. It's not functional for the amount of water coming through here. So we actually wouldn't use that. We'd block it off. We would discharge into this. This is kind of a linear pond, I would say, because it's not very wide, as you can see, going north and south. And then it would connect the discharge, would actually utilize the existing pipes that are over here. So we don't have to, in this scenario, we have to work with the landowner. We've talked about this a little bit with Midwest as an option, that we would have to basically take over those pipes and utilize those as part of our storm sewer system. Benefit is we don't have to dig through that outdoor storage area, which is a nice benefit in terms of minimizing inconvenience. And also to the north, for the Fleets property, this sort of is the edge of their gravel of their parking lot area, so it doesn't really impact areas that at least they're currently actively using. So we sort of maximize that space that's not really being used at this point in time. Also a benefit with this particular option is we are getting infiltration of our stormwater in this area, which we need to do for the watershed district, requires that. This not only takes care of some of the infiltration for this project, but has excess that we could utilize, as you know from other past issues we've had, that we need to try to encourage infiltration in other areas of the city. This will accomplish some of that for us to meet that goal that we've promised to do with the watershed district. So there is some benefits for this particular option. Everything else pretty much is the same, so I didn't really show anything really more other than this pond essentially removes the pipe that came all the way out and all the way out to the west to the discharge. So that's the difference with that. The estimated project cost, this is with the pipe alternative. You can see we broke it down by storm sewer costs and street costs. The estimated project costs are the total project costs, for each, 164.2 for the storm, 241.1 essentially for the streets, for a total project costs of just short of $300,000. The city cost then is broken down, and then the gross of all the accessible costs are broken down through there. You can see the city's cost in this is a little over $137,000. The accessible costs then are just short of $268,000 through there. We have not very many parcels, and I'll show you that in a minute, but unfortunately have a lot of front footage, which would be the assessment for those particular parcels. The itemized, the cost per front foot and the cost per square foot from the storm sewer, that's what the assessment costs are based on. And this also includes a 9-ton street credit, where we've taken the additional costs to get from a 7-ton to a 9-ton road and taken those costs and removed them from the accessible portion and put them, that's the city. That has been our practice over the years, so the city is bearing those costs. So they've been removed from the accessible costs and transferred to the city with those. In comparison, this is the cost with the pond alternative, and you'll note actually that they're fairly close. Frankly, at this point in time in preliminary design and preliminary costs, I would kind of say the two are about equal if you really thought about it from that perspective. This one, you can see the project cost is $422,500, city cost is $147,100, accessible cost $275,000, and you can see the square foot and the front foot cost for the street and storm sewer. Once again, these include that 9-ton street credit for those accessible properties. That cost has been transferred to the city.
Keith, could
yes.
you go back one slide real quick?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, go up again. I just wanted to get the cost comparison.
Okay, great. Let's be a little, I do have, actually, sorry, I have them in here, these in hard copy form, so I will pass them out to the council so you can take a look at these, and if any of the landowners would like to see them too, I think there's probably enough there. It's a little hard to see on there. Essentially what happened, we've seen these before, at least the landowners have seen these before. These are the updated costs. Now the costs between the two are very similar. Everyone got one there?
Yep.
So the costs are very similar. The cost didn't change much from the original, because even though we have some street credit that we took off now, unfortunately with the storm and the pond, the costs went up on the project. So the overall cost went up. Theirs went, yeah, they got a credit, but in the end, it turned out to be almost the same as the original assessments that we had at the time we did the public informational meeting on it. So I have a few here for you guys. I'll pass out. You guys can pass those down. I think that's it, right? You got you three. So these are the cost difference. You can see, I'll just kind of run down, like Schmidt Fleet is about 82.4 with this particular one. This is the pipe alternative. They range from 82.4 down to the city's cost, actually at the bottom is 103,000 with that. CPS is a little over 101,000 for that. Have fairly large, fairly long front footages. You know, CPS has over 1,000 feet of frontage for that particular roadway, and Fleet is 557. So fairly, those are large parcels with front footage through there. And Ag Power, I think, has quite a bit too. They're 500 and some feet as well. So really three main ones. There's one residential property that's on there. That is Dwayne Mosman that's written in there. So those are those. If you can kind of look at those, you can see them on paper there. To go to the next one, urban, they go up a couple $1,000s essentially for that particular option. So it's not a significant difference. I would say at this point in time, in terms of the accuracy of the preliminary numbers, I would call them about a wash at this point in time between those two. So that is all that I have prepared, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions that council may have first.
Council, have any questions?
Couple for clarification here. City of Sauk Center, that would be the utilities substation?
That is the utility substation, that's
Okay,
correct.
So not really the city per se, but the utility.
Right, it is in the city's name, so, but those costs will obviously get passed to the utility.
Okay, I guess, the pond option is higher than the pipe one.
Yep.
I guess what I'm looking for is a good excuse to go with the pond. Why would we spend that kind of money if you're a pond when we wouldn't have to?
Well, a couple things I would say with the pond. One is, with the pond, once again, at least in terms of Midwest especially, there isn't that disruption of going through their property with digging, because a new pipe would have to be installed through there. So the existing pipes wouldn't work on the pipe alternative. So those would have to be a new pipe. So there'll be disruption on that with their business. With the pond, we do have infiltration benefits, which we don't have with the pipe, and we need to get some of those infiltration benefits for past projects that the city has undertaken, and had some discussions with the watershed district on that. So I think there's some positives from that perspective. That's kind of about it. It really, we try to maximize, it allows us to reduce our pipe size a little bit, although the cost went up. We do have to put easement costs. There is a fair amount of easement costs that's put in there actually would be on mostly on Fleet's property. So those costs are in there for that. So, easement costs unfortunately negate some of those costs of saving on the storm sewer. But the costs, I wouldn't get too hung up on not a huge difference between the two. Because as I said, at this point in time, the estimates are, they're only, there's some fluff built into them, so one or the other, if you actually bid it, could change when you get into final design on them. So they're very close. So I wouldn't, I guess, think too much about how the difference is. I think I'd make, if my recommendation would be to make a decision based on what you think the other intangible and the full benefits of the project as a whole with either one or the other is probably perhaps a way to look at it.
It's this one, it's on a personal basis. If I was one of the property owners up there, it basically, and nothing against Midwest Machinery, it's just, it looks like it benefits them a lot, but I'm got to pay for it. And that's kind of the reason why I was questioning,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
And there's a slight difference, that is true. That's, well, at least what's shown on paper at this point in time, there's a little difference to it, so, but,
You said that the city needs to look at infiltration for some other reasons. What are you talking about?
if you recall with the 4th Street project, there was a lengthy discussion that kind of went ongoing with the watershed and some interpretation of the rules and disagreements thereof. But long and short is, anytime we do a project where we put down new pavement, or in the case of 4th Street, we put down pavement that was already there, new pavement, but we didn't change anything. And as a matter of fact, we actually reduced the footprint of the impervious surface than what it was originally. However, the rules are written that we still have to provide infiltration for those. And we came to an agreement that we would endeavor to find opportunities for infiltration in other projects within the city. And correct me if I'm paraphrasing that wrong or not, but that was what we committed to the watershed, that we would endeavor to find locations that we could try to get more infiltration to perhaps make up a little bit for that which wasn't included in that project.
All right, it's a general stewardship sort of thing.
Yes, correct.
All right.
And infiltration, for your information, because we're within a mile of an impaired water, we have to provide infiltration for 1 inch of runoff from all impervious surfaces. Now, that's whether if we do a mill and overlay and we're not changing the footprint, that still applies according to their regulations.
Anyone else have any other questions?
I got more questions then. How was the assessment arrived at for the street?
Assessment is the street costs in total.
Yep.
Divided by the total lineal, the front
Right.
footage adjacent to the property, both sides of the road.
Okay, so I mean, we have rules about sometimes it's a reconstruct, sometimes it's new. How did
Right.
we run this one through?
This one is fully being assessed, other than the credit for the 7 to 9 ton. The rest of it is being fully assessed, because we looked at it, at least the council at that time looked at it as not a reconstruct, it's a new roadway. I mean, I think there's, that's your perusal to make those final decisions on that, but that was what was decided previously.
Okay.
Anyone else? Otherwise, I've got one. Are we going to try to tie this, if this happens, tie it in with the Beltline project? And if we are, could that affect the cost as far as being more of a project?
Yeah.
To be reduced?
I'm glad you asked that. The answer is yes, we would include this with that overall Beltline project if the council elects to move forward with this. Would it give us some benefits? Certainly a larger project, we always get a little benefit of economy of scale. Typically, I mean, I can't guarantee exactly what's going to happen, but that's historically, we see some benefits by doing that versus bidding this all by itself as a separate project.
Okay.
We still have time to include it, but we would have to move forward with final plans to get everything packaged together.
Okay. How far off the road is that pond that we're talking about, if that's the way we go?
Basically, I would say the easterly edge of it is pretty much at the right-of-way, the westerly right-of-way of Center Street. So it's just off the road a little bit, and it's a 4-to-1 side slope, so it's actually maintainable. It's probably flatter than some of the slopes that are out there now in some of the areas. So it's 4-to-1 side slopes going in, which is kind of about the same as what you see on a highway type, the in slopes. As an example, I-94, those slopes going off the shoulder, those are 4-to-1s. So it gets you a visual of what that would be.
Okay. Just a few comments. I know we had a few people ask why we went with the urban, and I've got 2 new council members here. And Dave and Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason why we went with urban was basically the corner on Beltline and Center Street has been getting cut. People cut the corner enough that that's part of the reason why that culvert and storm drainage and underneath there is plugged right now. By going with tar and having a curb on the corners, it restricts that. If we went with normal tar, it isn't going to reduce the truck traffic from cutting the corner. You know, and I've also seen semis parked alongside that road. So if we didn't have a curb there to delineate where the edge is, the tar is just going to break down and settle on along the edges the way I understood it. Pretty much that's where we came with that idea. I don't want to spend a whole lot of money redoing a road just to have 3 years from now, because of heavy truck traffic, having the tar broke down on both edges 3 feet in, so we have more maintenance. And I think that's the reason why the council at the time went with the urban design to prevent that.
Right. We do get some more structural stability of the edge of the roadway. If it's an urban section, or excuse me, a rural section where you have the gravel shoulders, especially we have some larger machinery that comes through here, tends to be on the edge of the roadway, those kinds of things, and it will deteriorate that edge quicker, was the belief,
Right.
in our discussions with that.
And I think we also had thought that it would also control our stormwater runoff on the street. We can put it to where we need it, rather than just having it run off the sides of the street.
Yep.
On wherever it wants to go. So, am I correct in my suggestions here, or you two?
No, that's correct. That's
Okay.
what
Okay. I just figured it was a good time to bring it up now, because I've had a few people question why
Sure.
we're going that way, and I
Sure.
wanted to clarify
Right.
that, so.
And because, that was a council decision previously, that's why I removed that from the, just so everyone realizes it was already decided, so there was no reason to go through it at this point in time.
No, that's fine. I just wanted clarification for the new members and anyone else that had a question. So.
Okay.
Is there any other questions of staff? Okay. Is there anyone in the public that would like to have any questions answered for clarification? You want to approach the podium, please, and state your name and address?
Mike T. Schaefer, manager of Midwest Machinery, 1140 Center Street. Question for the council: have we explored running that water to the north down Beltline? Because the pond to the west is over 600 feet away from Center Street. Wondering if it would be shorter to run that water to the north down Beltline and save some money there. The other concern I have with running it to the west is we just purchased that land a couple of years ago for further expansion. And in the spring, it does flood out down there to the west. And we do plan on expanding down that way. So if we run the water down that way today, we're going to have an issue down the road. We have it in CRP right now, and when it comes out of CRP, there is further expansion plans.
Okay. Keith, you got an answer to that as far as elevations and grade, if that would work?
Yeah, I can answer the first question for sure. The first question, it's not possible for us grade-wise to run that water up to Beltline and down. Plus, as I think we all know, we do not have capacity for any additional water. In fact, that water that we're taking across the road from the north is counted on for being removed from what's currently going down Beltline to the east. And that's going to be opened up one way or the other. It's going to flow down Center Street as it did as soon as this project's done. Whether we do Center Street or not, that water is going to go that direction. So that's what the county is going to do. So. In terms of the other, I don't know I'd be able, at this point in time, have a real good answer in terms of how this will impact their future development without really seeing a plan and going through some whether it can be done. So I'm not really sure how I could address that. That water essentially gets there now. It's already draining through there. We're not really adding anything to that, with the only exception being the difference in runoff we get from a paved street versus a gravel street. But I will tell you, a gravel road that's been there and has been driven on for years, generally we look at those nearly as a paved surface, so there really isn't infiltration that we get from the roadway. So there would be negligible additional water that would get to that site than what's going there now.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mike, or you got any more, or? Okay. Is there anyone else that has any questions for clarification? Anyone else? I will then open it up. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the proposal? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the proposal? Anyone here that would like to speak in favor? Is there anyone here that would like to speak against the proposal? Anyone here that would like to speak against the proposal? Third time, is there anyone here that would like to speak against the proposal? Okay, seeing none, this public hearing is now closed, and we will reopen the regular council meeting. Thank you. I think we do have an action item later on tonight to decide what we will be doing with this project. Moving on, reports and presentations. Police report, December 2014. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for December 2014, some of the numbers we had. We had 6 alarm calls. We had 14 motorist and personal assists. We had 17 assists for other agencies. We had 9 citations given out for driving after revocation and suspensions. We had 9 arrests for small amount of marijuana. 6 juvenile problems. 24 medicals. 9 citations given out for no Minnesota driver's license. 16 suspicious calls. 7 thefts. 4 unwanteds. 225 verbal warnings were given out, and 4 welfare checks. So we had a total activity of 486. And then compare that to November, we're down 21 on calls, down 17 on warnings, and total down by 15. Pretty comparable to November. And then we compare that to 2013, it's pretty comparable also. So, other than that, I have nothing else for December.
Okay.
And then we'll look at doing the year-end report at the next meeting.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good. Does anyone have any questions for Brian?
I'm just wondering what a noise no violation is.
A noise no violation?
Yeah, it says noise and then no violation.
2 of them, just noise complaint, basically.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
the no violation was given out, probably a warning.
okay.
Yep.
I seen that we had 3 canine assists, so I take it other agencies are finding out we've got a dog now?
Pretty rapidly. Yeah.
And it's working well?
It is working very well, and it's actually working good to get those assists, so he's getting the experience with the dog, as fast as he can, and so he's actually this weekend going to try to get it certified nationally, so we'll see how that goes. So,
Okay, good. Any other question? Thank you, Brian.
Right, thank you.
Ambulance year-end report, Assistant Ambulance Director. It says assistant. You can take it, Kathy. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present the 2014 year-end ambulance report. of our activities for 2014. Administration staff, I'm still the ambulance director, assisted by Tim DeShane, who is the assistant ambulance director. Jeff Bromanchenko remains our training coordinator, and Dr. Mary Thomas is our medical director. In 2014, we saw the resignation of one of our EMTs, Ron Amsworth. He'd been with our crew for almost 8 years, from January of 2007 through November of 2014. So he was very active on our service and in the community, so he'll be missed by a lot of people in our areas. We have, without Ron, we have 18 EMTs and 1 first responder driver. And Andrea, who is our first responder driver, she's also on the fire department, and she is in the process of taking the EMT course. So her and Chris Heinen, we have her as Ron's replacement, basically, taking the EMT course. They should be finishing up later this month and testing out on their practical skills, and then we'll go on for the National Registry written test. And then they should be good to go on our crew. So then we'll be back up to our 20 staffing. Our biggest change for 2014, of course, was the purchase of our new building on the south end of town. We moved into our facility at the end of July and hosted Night to Unite in August at our new facility. We maintained 3 ambulances. 561 is a 2013 Chevy Type 3 ambulance. We used that in 2014 for our emergency and non-emergency basic life support transfers, and then any calls that came in within the city limits. The mileage on that at this time is approximately 26,000 miles, and 7,500 of those were put on in 2014. And then our second rig is 562, and that's a 2009 Ford E450 Type 3 ambulance again, and we use that for the advanced life support transfers, ones that have nurses going along. And then I have in-town calls on that one. That should have been out-of-town calls. But the mileage on that is now at about 69,000, and 10,300 put on in 2014 on that rig. And then our third rig is a 2000 Ford E350 Type 3 ambulance, and we use that as our backup rig, non-emergency basic life support transfers and special details. And that's got mileage of 129,000, and 13,200 were put on that in 2014. So besides our calls that we take, we also provide activities, provide a blood pressure booth at the Stearns County Fair. We do the demolition derbies. We do parades, sporting events, standbys for sporting events. We do a lot of CPR and first aid classes for the community education, as well as we go into the school and do the CPR first aid for the health classes every quarter. And we do CPR for the hospital staff and to businesses in the community that want their employees to know CPR first aid. You can see from our call activity, for 701 calls we had for 2014, which is, you can't even call it really down from the year before. It was down 1. So down 1 call from 2013. Transported patients was in the area of 570, so it remained about the same. But you can see from 2006 how we've steadily increased through the years on both our runs, and our transported patients. For county-wise, of course, Stearns County is 91% of our calls are right in Stearns County or the city of Sauk Center. We also provide service into small areas of Douglas and Pope County. So Pope County, we were just under 1% of our calls. We went into Pope County, and then 14% into Douglas County, and Todd County, we're at almost 8% of our calls run into Todd County. And then I have it broken down by city or township. So you can see that 567 of our calls were in the city limits of Sauk Center. 41 were in the township of Sauk Center, and then Birchdale and Candota townships of Todd County were our next highest response to. Times of call, 8 in the morning until 8 at night seem to be the peak times throughout the year. And then our day of week, Friday, just a little bit higher on Fridays this year. And hour of the day. And then the patients by age, you can see the higher percentage of our calls are with patients that are 65 years of age and older. And then that's broken down by male and female too, and that's pretty even there. 312 females, 341 for males. And then the last page I have just kind of a lot of what we're responding to. Runs by our provider impression. Chest pain discomfort was almost 7% of our calls. That's the highest number. That, other illness and injury, and just generalized pain are like the 3 top calls that we go on. Traumatic injuries is relatively high too, with car accidents and falls. And medical transports was 38.5% of all of our calls. Got the runs by the dispatch reason why dispatch paged us out, and you can see that medical transports is pretty high for us at 38.5%. So we still pack those miles on our ambulances. So any questions from the council?
Any questions?
I just, excuse me, I have a question. There's been a few months that have gone by since you guys have moved into the new building.
Yes.
Have you done any studies that you could have response time gauged and assessed?
I didn't do any, though I have a way that I could do that. I don't know how accurate that would be, because when we were on the north side of town, if we responded to the interstate,
Sure.
we had a longer response time, and now we have a shorter response time for that. But our response time to get to the hospital for transfers is now longer because we have a longer transport time. So, but I could still do that and include it in. See if I can find.
I don't know if you,
differences.
I just was kind of curious myself to see if it's been beneficial to you guys. Do you feel like it has been? Do you get it, I mean, just thinking about the areas of your calls, I suppose it all depends, but I mean.
Yeah, it depends. But for interstate calls, it's definitely been an improvement to get out to the interstate, and even to get to West Union for calls out in that area, to be able to just jump right on the interstate and head to West Union and then exit. Instead of before, we'd come from the north end of town, we'd take a right in Sinclair and go out the back way, but it just seems to be quicker just to jump right on the interstate now.
Okay.
So that we've noticed.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I got one. I see now 2 years you've had at 700 runs, and they tend to be clumped daylight hours. Typically Monday through Friday tends to be the worst. That has to be an issue for people trying to staff the ambulance when you know you're going to be gone probably twice a day during what would normally be your regular job. Looking to the future, this is only going to get worse. What's your plan?
Correct. Well, I think we're headed in the right direction, watching our numbers, and, knowing that we needed a better, bigger facility. The facility we have now does have sleeping quarters. We have a kitchen with a stove refrigerator, a nice couch that could be used as a sleeping area as well. Looking to the future, I think, the numbers staying consistently higher and getting over that 700 mark, we, may need to start researching the possibility of possibly going full-time, at least during the daytime hours in the next few years. I have talked to Dr. Thomas about that as well as going to part-time advanced life support service. Since we do have one of our EMTs will be taking her paramedic test in a couple of months, and we have a couple of nurses on our staff right now, and another one that's in training for a nurse. So we might be qualified to be able to go part-time ALS at this point, but that's something that Dr. Thomas is starting to research too.
You have only one paramedic student? I know we've had a few over the years.
We only have one at
Just
this
one
time,
now? Okay.
yes.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you, Kathy.
All right, thank you.
You know, before she goes, I'm going to ask one quick question.
Okay.
Off the top of your head, how many times have all 3 ambulances been out? A couple times a year?
I'd say up to 6, because during the fair time, when we have one that's out on demos all the time, and we have one out, sometimes we'll have all three out. It's probably been under 6 maybe this year, do you think?
Half a dozen? Okay.
I'd say half a dozen
I'm
times.
just, I can look down the future and see a time when you buy a new ambulance, but you don't trade in the 4th one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That made me think of another question, though. Conversation came up yesterday about the polar plunge this weekend. Have you guys been contacted about providing any?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll have EMTs there. I was going to discuss that with Vicki today too, or tomorrow, and about the ambulance itself being there, but for sure we'll have EMTs there.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, ambulance department year-end billing report. Tim?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the new council members, my name is Tim Duchesne, Assistant Ambulance Director with the city here. On the billing side of our yearly report, we billed out 567 patients, which was actually an increase of 3.2% over last year. So I know that we were down 2 total calls, but yet we transported, almost 20 more patients than we did last year. We billed out just over $596,000 worth of bills, which is a 4.5% increase from last year. And then on the collection side of it, we collected $368,547.24, which is a 7.5% increase. So it seems like a good amount of our bills that we are generating. We are having a good result in collecting a bunch of them. We use Star Claims to do our collecting, do our billing, I should say, and collecting. They do a fine job. We still have $101,454.40 worth of bills that are outstanding. And you have to understand that we're still collecting from a couple files from 2011. So at times it does take quite a while to collect these bills. On the last, or actually second to last page of the report, I included how we collected them. A majority is through our billing company when they bill out insurance companies and they pay. The ones that do not pay, they get sent back to us for collection of some sort. We collected $6,634.66 through revenue recapture, and then $84 through collections, and then other ways, $2,483. Those are, when I get a file back, I usually send a letter out saying, hey, you still haven't paid your bill, could you pay it? And then some actually do take that advice and go ahead and pay it before I send it to collections. On the adjusted side, and that, if you don't know what that means, typically it's Medicare, Medicaid patients. We are federally regulated to take a reduction in our collections. So those are automatic write-offs through those programs. So that equaled $215,377.90. And then on the return files, you can see again what I did with them. We had 6 files that were unable to collect. Most of them are deceased and with no estate to go after, so we're going to be requesting the council to give me the ability to just put them away then. And the last page is just basically what's going to come up later in the council meeting is the request from the council. Is there any questions on the billing side of the report that I can answer?
Just one question on the transported patient. Does any of transporting to the airport in lieu of the helipad, does that enter into that?
Yeah, we came when the hospital closed down their helipad this summer. We had an agreement with the hospital on a set rate that the hospital pays us to transport either the patient or transport the helicopter crew back and forth to the airport. and back to the hospital. So that's not paid by the patient, that's paid by the hospital.
And any idea how much that revenue amounted to?
You know, a majority of it, because of a billing snafu, hasn't been paid yet, but I would say roughly about $3,000.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I've got one. How long do we generally keep the files open?
Oh, good question. Now, if they go into revenue recapture, they are actually open forever. People don't know what revenue recapture is. Since we're a city entity, we are within state law to have our files or monies collected through a system called revenue recapture. It's basically can seize their state tax return or lottery winnings. So we file it with the Department of Revenue, thank you. And then when they get a tax return, it gets seized from them, and you know, we get that money until it's paid. I know this year I think I had a 2008 or 2009 file that you know, got some money returned from that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? We do have an action item later on, so if none, thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Moving on, Fire Department Annual Report.
Evening, Mayor and Council. 2014 Annual Fire Department Report. Response calls, structure fires. In 2013, we had 11, 2014, 10. Grass fires, 13 was 3, and 14 was 2. Rescue and medicals, 2013 we had 19, 2014 we had 18. Vehicle accidents and fires, in 13 we had 9, in 2014 we had 6. Gas and smoke alarms, in 13 we had 12, and 12 and 14. False or canceled calls, 2013 we had 32, and in 14 we had 31. Service calls, 2 and 13, excuse me, 2 and 13, and 4 and 14, for a total of, in 2013 we had 88, and 2014 we had 83. Response calls billed, $12,900. Response calls received from 2013 was $1,005. Response calls received in 2014 was $8,495. Unpaid was $4,785. And collections and write-offs was $2,465. Grants and reimbursements and donations. We got Ag Star Financial, $3,000. Minnesota Management Training reimbursement was $1,390. League of Minnesota Cities Insurance vehicle collision reimbursement was $49.5874. Geronimo Energy, a rescue tube, was $2,500. DNR grant was $2,500, and the Sauk Center Fire Relief was $41,000 for a total of $55,348.74 in grants and reimbursements and donations. We had 4 firefighters retire in 2014, and we hired 3 back in 2014. That's it. Any questions?
Questions? Comments? I just got one, Steve. What's a service call? You had 4 in 2014. What constitutes a service call?
I would say that would probably be like a central buy spill or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Where we go out and clean up the road.
Okay. Or traffic control kind of thing?
Traffic and wash down the road.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Park Board report.
I've never stayed sitting so long at a council meeting. Park Board report. The Park Board met for their regular session last night, February 3rd. They had a few items on the agenda. Matt Wessel is the new chairman of the Park Board. A couple of things they're talking about, their unfinished business of the splash pad If you've been out there, you noticed they were out here this last week and actually finished up the pavilion or the shelter. And now this, where the splash pad's at right now is the plans for the Department of Health are being drawn up. So when it gets through to Department of Health, so we kind of have two things going on at the same time. The design of the pad itself is happening at the same time as the plumbing plan. So once that plumbing plan is approved, then the final plan can be approved by the city for the park design itself. A couple items of new business or unfinished business is the Throwback Prom, which is a fundraiser for the splash pad, which is being held on Elmer's on the 21st. Come dressed as your favorite decade for the prom. So we're looking for all of you. So here is probably 10 tickets right in front of me. And then we also talked about the 2015 project that they're going to be working on, and there's a couple things. Of course, they know they want to finish up the splash pad. We had the Baseball Association work up at Towerview Park that they were talking about. We talked about Browns Park, and also we had some irrigation on the middle park. So they're just starting the conversation about any capital project that they want to look at in 2015. And we had some informational items. There's quite a few drive floor events coming up at the Civic Arena. On March 17th through the 19th, we have Midwest Machinery Show. March 28th is the Team Ivy Rose Garage Sale. April 11th through 12th is the Nigel Gun Show. April 18th is a craft fair. April 23rd is Ladies Night Out. April 25th is the Big Rig. April 25th is 2 circus shows. And then on June 13th, July 11th, August 8th, September 5th, September 12th, and September 26th is a combination of wedding receptions, family reunions, and a Sweet 15 party. So there's quite a few events happening at the arena coming up this year, which is a good thing. So we'll see how those all go. Does anybody have any park board questions?
I drove past the pavilion today. It looks really nice down at the splash pad.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Vicki. EDA report.
The EDA met today. This was their regular meeting. Some of the things they talked about on their unfinished business is, as you know, we purchased the 59 acres that wraps around the truck stop. We talked about a land rental contract with the farm that has been farming that over the years and looking to renew that contract for this year for 2015. Also an update on the purchase of the racetrack property that closing is set to occur now probably next week. It was pending some final title issue releases that had to be completed. And then also they discussed the TIF turnback dollars that came back from the decertification of a couple TIF districts in December, and that they'll have a recommendation that those dollars be used for matching grant dollars for the EDA. So that will be their recommendation. And then they received their 2014 year-end financial report as far as the cash that the EDA has to work with, the debt that the EDA has, and then what was the third thing? I guess their revolving loan fund balances, their accounts receivable. So that was their meeting today. So does anybody have any EDA questions?
Seeing none? I guess we'll move on to the action items. Thank you.
Good.
First action item, Ambulance Department Annual Medicare Adjustment.
This is what Tim DeShane was just speaking of, the year that each year the ambulance department has these accounts receivables, which we can't collect, and then we also have the insurance and Medicare adjustments and that type of billing. So what he's looking, I will just repeat what he was asking for here, is to approve the ambulance department Medicare adjustments of $215,377.90, and the write-offs as uncollectible as $34,359.30, and the internal write-offs of $37,8282. So there's the three different amounts with the adjustments. And also as part of that, with the city audit, how it works is we have to post as receivable the entire amount billed, that larger amount, and then we have to expense out the write-offs. So it looks, when you get your final report of the year, it looks like a big expense, but it's actually those Medicare adjustments, and you'll see that when you get your final report at the year end. So what we're looking for is those ambulance department adjustments.
Okay, any discussion? Questions, comments? If not, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the ambulance department Medicare adjustments of $215,377.90. and write-offs as uncollectible of $34,359.30, and also internal write-offs as uncollectible of $3,782.82.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from Diane. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Dave. Any other discussion or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Moving on. Approve Resolution 2015-13. Should be dash 4. Should be 13? Should be 15, right?
The year is 15, the 13 is a resolution number.
Yeah, right. Ordering improvement of Center Street.
Okay, as you know, you had the public hearing early this evening on the agenda, and now tonight you may take action to order the improvement. If you do take action to order the improvement, the final design will take place and be prepped for bidding, and of course there will be an approval of the plans that would come before the city council at that time. The difference between this, of course, is that we would be bidding it with the county project along with Beltline. So the county is actually going to be doing the bidding, but we will be looking with the plans for the plan approval. And also, we're looking at the best solution for funding the project, which I think with bond counsel, I met with them yesterday along with our fiscal agent and kind of determined how we can fund the project and get the best interest rate. The one other thing I think that we need to make a determination on, I don't know if you need it tonight, is the pond versus pipe option. We could. Okay. So I guess you might want to have a little bit of discussion there or a decision. And then if you choose to approve this resolution, ordering the improvement of Center Street. Now, you do have time to approve it from a legal standpoint, but on the timing standpoint, if we're going to wrap this up with Beltline, then the sooner you make a decision on it, the better.
Okay, questions, discussion? What's the council's?
Well, I guess I just had one thing. This, if we pass this resolution, it goes and it will be done in conjunction with the Beltline project. However, if it isn't approved, the Beltline project will still go through anyway. Okay. Do we have okay, so that could be pulled out and we could, if it gets approved, if the Beltline project gets approved without the urban design, if that's rejected, we would still have a chance to revisit that? Do you understand what I'm?
Well, I didn't quite understand your question. So you're saying if we don't do Center and Beltline is still going to go forward? Yep. We're just not going to wrap this into it?
Yep.
And at some future date, could we revisit Center?
That's kind of it.
Yes, we could.
Okay.
It makes it a little different for trying to take advantage of the economy of scale of bidding them together.
Okay.
But it doesn't prohibit us from sometime in the future picking it back up again.
Okay.
I think, Keith, we discussed that another time too, in regards to the bidding this year versus future years, looking at, cost increase, that if it's going to get done eventually, it's going to get done, and to just take advantage of it, once we have the numbers.
I believe he said, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're seeing about a 3.5% a year increase in costs, kind of traditionally for construction of this type.
Right.
About three? About three, okay.
Okay.
All right, yeah, I think it's time to move forward. There's reasons for doing the pond system, and I support the pond system. I know that it costs a little bit more, but the city has some reasons independent of this project for looking at other infiltration solutions around town. Because it costs a little bit more, those assessed costs are largely passed on, and the primary beneficiary, near as I can tell, looks to be Midwest Machine, who wouldn't have their area dug up for piping. Obviously, the city benefits. Apparently, Midwest benefits. I'm not sure that it benefits the other property owners much. It seems like maybe we could work a deal between us and Midwest as to those extra costs. They were only about $17,000, I think. It wasn't huge anyway. But some of it is definitely for our reasons, not because it benefits anybody down there but us. But some of the reasons for putting a pond is, well, they're not going to get dug up. So I think we can address that down the road. but I think we have reasons for saying you go ahead with the pond.
Okay. Any other comments, discussions? I agree with everything that Dave said. Basically, yeah, Midwest is benefiting, the city's got their own. Negotiating with the private party on the extra costs, I'm not certain I would go with that because they've already got a huge assessment for the project. I'm kind of think since it's like 17,000, maybe the city should just pick it up since it is benefiting us the most.
That makes you an easy negotiator.
I know, but it does benefit us, and they're already, you know.
I'm not going to argue the point with you.
Right, no, I'm just throwing that comment out. So I guess, first of all, we need to have a decision as far as if we're going with pond or pipe.
Well, I make a motion that we go with the pond design that was presented here.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Just to clarify, the actual assessments are not locked in by this decision. They'll come later.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Now that we decided that part, is there any discussion as far as ordering the improvement of Center Street? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2015-13, ordering improvement of Center Street?
So moved.
And seconded.
We have a motion from Heidi and a second from Dave. Any discussion or comments? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Thank you. Approve Resolution 2015-14, approving grant agreement with MnDOT for airport fueling system.
And this is what was presented at the January 21st City Council meeting, that we had been awarded a grant from MnDOT Aeronautics for the new fueling station. This is a resolution authorizing the execution of that grant agreement. The grant will pay 60% of the cost of installation of the system. The total cost of the project is $29,228. The airport board recommends that the grant offer be approved. And I actually received a call today from the installer that's proposing or drawing up the plans regarding the credit card system to make sure we have the system that works with us internally. So what we're looking for is to approve Resolution 2015-14, entering into the grant agreement with MnDOT Aeronautics for the airport fueling system.
Okay, comments, questions? Anyone need clarification? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2015-14, entering into grant agreement with MnDOT Aeronautics for airport fueling system?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Keith, second from Diane. Any other discussion or comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve Resolution 2015-11, approving purchase of snow blower.
At the January 7th City Council meeting, the council directed that discussion on the potential purchase of a new snow blower be sent to the Finance Committee. The purchase had already advanced through the Operations Committee and is scheduled for purchase on the 2015 Capital Improvement Plan. We discussed the proposal on January 15th. They recommend that the city proceed with purchasing a snow blower, and we were looking at the state bidding process and that funds from the sinking fund and from the 2015 heavy equipment budget be allocated. The specifications from the Public Works Department included it be a 2-stage unit, double or triple augers. We were looking for 175 to a 250 horsepower diesel engine with an output of 1,200 to 2,000 tons per hour. Cutting width of 100 to 120 inches. The maximum operating weight was 9,000 pounds. This was to fit on the front of our existing loader. Telescopic chute to allow for the blowing or truck loading, quick hitch system, and delivery. Now, we went out to the state bid and we printed out all the bidding that they had. There was actually 2 that fit within those parameters. One was from Connolly Equipment, a Tenco, and one was from McQueen, which was a Snow-Go. You'll see those prices were $116 and $135 respectively. At the same time, we happened to call Sicard, and Sicard is the manufacturer of our existing snowblower for parts, and at that time found that they were again manufacturing a similar snowblower, and they provided us with a bid as well. So you'll see that Sicard CS 1720 for $96,000. All 3 of these meet the specifications that we had requested. There was some discussion regarding this Sicard unit in that they're just back in the business of doing this particular unit, although our 1989 or 1990 model is also a Sicard, and that they don't have any placed in the United States right now. They're doing a build of 16 that are going to do airports in China. 8 of them have been shipped and 8 more are under construction right now. All of the units of all of these are all manufactured actually near Montreal. So they come out of Quebec, they transfer across the border to New York, and they get distributed from there. So the units are similar in that respect. I just wanted to, bring to your attention that we would be actually the first of this model number of the Sicard in the United States, and some people were having some discussion that maybe we didn't want to do that, or should we? I leave that to the City Council's decision, and the reason I bring it forward, it is a savings of $20,000 over the next unit. We did talk to McQueen, who had the Snow-Go. They actually carry Sicard parts for other models. And in discussion with them, they said it's very possible they will be carrying parts for this new model as well. However, our existing one, we've always just gone straight and ordered them from New York. So it can go one way or another. So that's kind of a discussion that the City Council needs to have and make sure that they would be comfortable if they take that lowest bid, that they understand that this would be actually the first model. Someone always has to buy the first one, obviously. And it is a company that we've done business ourselves with for 25 years. But, I didn't know what your level of comfort with that would be. So I leave that part to you.
Discussion?
We've had good luck with our current Sicard, correct?
We have, yeah. That's why we've kept it for 25 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and we're not the first buyer, we're just the first U.S. buyer.
Correct.
And hopefully, if we spend that kind of money on a snow blower, we don't have to buy parts that quick.
No.
Yeah, we shouldn't be looking
No,
at parts
because
right
we
away.
probably get the special.
There's always
markup.
things that go
Yeah,
wrong,
yeah.
but to be out buying parts right away, I don't think we should have to worry about it.
Well, for buying parts from McQueen too, we'll probably have the special markup on it. So,
Right.
Just a unrelated question. Delivery would be when?
The 3rd week of March.
All right, about the time the snow stops. All right.
That would be the case of any of these units.
All right,
So-
yeah, I didn't expect to get it for this season. All right.
Did we get an offer as far as a trade-in?
They did not offer a trade-in on that simply because just transportation would be, and they don't have a
More than
local
it's
dealer
worth.
to take it to.
Okay.
So, but we did talk to any of the other ones, and they said, well, if you don't trade it in, put it on the website for a minimum bid of,
Yeah.
that was gonna be-
Bid it
$9,000
out,
or something, and see, or for about that, and see what you get.
Okay. Well, any other discussion or comments?
Is there any sort of warranty that comes with these? Is there
Oh, they all do have warranties. So I
any
don't.
one better than the other, or
They each like to say they have the better warranty.
right?
So we had warranty on our original one, and usually it's warranty on parts and then they pay for labor. I don't know on these particularly, and I don't have Tom here to ask that question of what the warranty is on each of them. But if there's a minimum warranty that you're comfortable with, we can
But the
certainly.
Sicard is probably comparable to the others.
I would guess that it is, but I would want to get that in writing. Before we actually would order it, we would get those details in writing.
Okay. As it stands right now, the Sicard SSI Group Incorporated is the low bid for a Sicard CS-1720 for $96,059.67. Do I have approved resolution 2015-11 approving the purchase of the snow blower?
So moved.
We have a motion from Dave. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A second from Diane. Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approved contract with Teamsters Local 320, the police union.
The Teamsters Local 320 unit represents the police union, and they have entered into a tentative agreement to settle the contract with the city for 2015 through 2017. This is the three changes to the existing contract as we go from a 2-year to a 3-year term, same as we did with Public Works. The salary increase is the same as offered Public Works, which is 2.5, 3, and 3. And the one difference is that the city would pay for the post license. Currently, that post license is $45, of which the city pays half. It would change it to the city pay the post license. So those are the 3 changes that are recommended that the police union, Teamsters Local 320, has presented to the city. So we're looking now for an approval of that contract with the police union as presented.
Comments? Questions?
And this did go through personnel, by the way.
Right. Personnel committee at the time was Brad and I, and
Yeah.
then we're the ones that had done the negotiating, so is there any, this is basically what we worked out. It took them a little while to come back, so there will be some retro pay based.
Right, this is effective January 1st.
So there will be some retro pay besides that. Any other comments? Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to approve contract with Teamsters Local 320 Police Union as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion from Heidi. A second?
I'll second that.
A second from Keith. Any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve road closure of Park Road for Polar Plunge.
This was the new item that was added to your agenda tonight. This is for the first ever Sauk Center Polar Bear Plunge, and that is this Saturday, February 7th. The proceeds from this event benefit Special Olympics. You've heard of polar bear plunges all around the state. You can either form a team or you can jump as an individual, and registration starts at 10 a.m. at Sinclair Lewis Park. They're requesting that Park Road be closed from the parking lot by the band shell to the parking lot by the boat launch from like 10 a.m. until the final plunge, and it's usually like 10 to 12, couple hours. If you've been down by the boat landing, you'll see they have big tents set up where the boat landing is, and that's where they kind of conduct it out of. And then they have fire department there, and they have people that are like in the hole, and you know, all those kinds of safety precautions that are going on. But what they're looking at from the city is to approve the road closure of Park Road from 10 a.m. until the final plunge on February 7th.
Okay, discussion? Questions? I seen the tents were down there, and it's kind of a little off the mark, but how did they anchor those tents down?
How did they anchor them down?
Yeah, because I was just wondering, did they pound about 25 spikes into our tar parking lot down there, and then each year become an annual event? Pretty soon it's
Is
broke
Brian
up.
still back here? No, Brian is not here. I can't.
Not to take
I can't
it
answer
away
that
from
question.
the event, it was just that I was just wondering.
Let's hope they put cement blocks down or
I
something.
think I remember seeing that when I drove by,
Did they?
actually.
'Cause I
do.
didn't get a chance to drive by, I was just wondering.
I drove by, but I wasn't really paying attention, but I bet they use blocks to,
Okay.
And the ground's frozen.
I
It'd be
kind of
hard to
figured
Yeah.
get
that would
into,
be,
so.
but I've seen other things.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it's
happen,
assessment blocks.
you know. So that's just a question I wanted to ask. Any other discussion or questions? If not, do I have a motion to approve road closure of Park Road from 10 o'clock until the final plunge on February 7th, 2015?
so moved.
We have a motion from Keith. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Dave. Any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. Takes us into our consent agenda, our schedule of claims. We have unpaid claims of $323,519.42, paid claims of $10,000 for a total of $333,519.42. We have a resolution 2015-15 accepting contributions of $240 from the men's card playing group to be allocated toward the senior center, and $600 for a night vision scope from Gary Gamrod for the police department. Is the city to acknowledge the contributions received and thank both parties involved. Resolution 2015-16, accepting bids for excess vehicles and equipment. We advertised various excess vehicles for public sale through the state of Minnesota Surplus Services online website. We had one vehicle sold, a 1993 Plymouth Acclaim, was bought by bidder Jeffrey Clevin for a dollar amount of $125. We also have a request from Elmer Z's Restaurant Bar and Event Center for a temporary off-premise liquor permit to utilize their on-sale liquor license at Ladies Night Out at the Civic Arena on April 23rd. Do we have any questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane, second.
A second.
Second by Heidi. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. We have numerous informational items. Do you want to handle that, Vicki?
Sure. We have at the term of Diane Schmeezing will expire on March 31st, 2015. This is for the HRA board. That is our one board that has a different fiscal year than the city. We have placed a notice in the Sauk Herald regarding the vacant seat. It is a 5-year term if you know anybody that's interested in serving on that term. We do have the safety committee meeting that meets quarterly. Their minutes are attached. A reminder, the fire service meeting is here February 17th at 7:30 p.m. We will post that so a quorum of the council can be present if they so choose to come to that meeting. The Board of Equalization meeting is Monday, May 4th at 1 p.m. And I do need to have at least one of you that attended the training to be at that class. And I believe Keith and Dave both went to the class to be certified for that. Hazardous waste collection.
It was me.
Oh, that was you? Dave?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm
I
sorry.
haven't. I'm just wondering when, I suppose I'd be up then.
I can get you your date.
Yeah,
That it was.
that'd be
I'll get
great.
that for you.
Yep.
Okay, the hazardous waste collection. This is where normally you would take your paint and everything out to Becker's in the summer. New date and time. And location. It's actually on a Wednesday this year, June 10th, and it's going to be in the Civic Arena parking lot rather than out at Becker's. So that we want to try to get the word out. If it's Saturday, you're there the wrong day. It's going to be at the Civic Arena parking lot on a Wednesday.
Will
And-
you be able to bring
No.
RV?
Same question every year. No, sorry, Keith. Also, something new, Monday, the 23rd of February, here at City Hall, we're going to have an informational meeting with the Big Sauk Lake Association because we're looking to go for our permit for the aquatic weed control. And if you recall, this was the conversation, the weed harvester versus chemical. The contractor that they want to work with, that did the lake survey, will be there. Members of the DNR will be there, so we'll be able to ask questions regarding the process. They've got a little PowerPoint. I went to a meeting last Saturday morning with them, and it was informational, kind of answered some of the questions I think that were asked here when we were originally having that discussion. So feel free to come to that meeting. And then the final thing I have is on February 21st. That is the throwback prom that benefits the splash pad. So those are my informational items.
Questions?
I just had one, and maybe we'll get a chance down the road for this, but could you explain that equalization to our new?
I will do that. I'll get them the information.
Okay.
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 They're going to newly
This-
elected officials, both of them, so they'll learn it there.
Good, yeah.
Maybe this is information we're going to get, but the aquatic weed control, we had no plan last year, and I know the rules were you had to file your plan or there'd be no work next
We
year.
did
Are we
s-
talking about
No,
summer?
a plan was submitted last July
By who?
by the Big Sauk Lake Association, submitted it to the watershed to review, and that's what we're going to be talking about, whether we're going to go with that plan or not.
Okay. I'm just a little confused because my understanding was that the city had to approve that the year before. That didn't happen.
The city council did not approve. We brought it to the council, but it was more informational at that time.
Yeah,
Because it
I'm just a little
included more
concerned.
lake shore. So that's why I suggested maybe this informational meeting to get the council in. So,
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of concerned because I thought the rules were that this was supposed to be taken care of the year before for next year.
Right,
And
and-
when it didn't happen last year, well, then I guess we're not spraying this year. Well, now it kind of looks like they're planning on spraying, but we didn't approve a plan last year.
yeah, I will get all the information ahead of the meeting
All
for
right.
you. I understood your concerns, so that was, in fact, I asked some of those same questions at the meeting.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Diane and Heidi, you're going to the newly elected officials? Okay, good. I went to the experienced officials meeting last weekend, so you'll definitely learn a lot of new stuff and how things will work, so. Anybody have any questions, definitely get a hold of us, so. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Heidi. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.